Hello and welcome back to Best Bets. What is going on? I am Matt O'Leary alongside Newsday's NFL pick columnist Joe Manniello. Joe, how's it going?
Doing good, Matt. How are you?
Doing pretty good. It was a good week for you. A nice bounce back effort, 4-1-1, and a undefeated Thanksgiving. I went 3-3, so I'm 33, 37-2, and you're sitting at 36, 32-3.
Great.
Absolutely. So a ton of great games. We're going to add an extra one in here. We'll get to that in a little bit, but we'll start with the locals as we usually do. It's the Jets and the Vikings. The Vikings are favored by 3 points in this one. Who do you like?
I like the Jets a lot in this game. I've been looking at this game for a couple of weeks, trying to see if the Jets were going to make it to the playoffs, and if I was going to win my bet with my friend, the Jets would get 10 wins. And I thought this was a very winnable game, and that was before Mike White made this offense look like an NFL offense. You shouldn't overreact to one game, and I know it's the Bears, but come on. The Jets look like they could play offense. The receivers are happy. It's a totally different team, a complete 180. And for me, as great as the offenses looked last week, it's also about the defense. I think the defense matches up well against the Vikings. They can get home against Cousins just with their front four, and they got Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed. Tough challenge against Justin Jefferson, but I think Gardner's going to be up for it. I think it's going to be a close game, a good game. I like the Jets to win the game outright. There's a reason this spread's only 3. You know, people might be saying, why are the Vikings a 9-2 team? They won at Buffalo. Why are they only giving 3 to the Jets? Because the Vikings are not as good as their record indicates, 9-2. When they had that 8-game winning streak or 7-game winning streak to get to 8-1, tons of close wins. A couple games go the other way. This could be 7-4 versus 7-4, even 6-5 for the Vikings. I mean, you follow it every week. They had a ton of close games. They're not a dominant team. They lost at home 40-3 to the Cowboys. They're not this powerhouse team. I think the Jets can go in there and win. Jets are 6-0 when scoring 18 or more points this year. I think they get it done here. I think they win this game 27-24 Jets.
All right, there you go. I'm also going to take the Jets here, and for a lot of the same reasons that you said. One, I think while the Vikings have this 9-2 record and they, are one of the better teams in the NFC, I think that doesn't mean that they're not beatable. And you look at the Vikings defense, they are arguably the worst defense in the league against the pass. And if you have even a 75% of what Mike White was last week against the Bears, I think the Jets offense should look really good in this game. And, obviously Justin Jefferson, they trade for TJ Hawkinson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, and Kirk Cousins distributing the football. That's a good offense, but this Jets defense has shown that they could hang with any offense in the league. I think it'll be a back and forth kind of game. But I like the Jets in a little bit of a lower scoring one, 24-20. I think Mike White gets it done and shows that he's capable on the road against a really good opponent. I think it's going to be a good one, but I think the Jets come away with the win on the road. As for
that was my other score possibility, 24-20. So.
All right.
We're on the same page.
On the same page. Let's see if we're on the same page with the Giants and the Commanders. Giants are underdogs, 2.5-point underdogs to the Commanders. What do you think on this one?
Yeah, I think the spread is wrong. I think at worst it should be a pick 'em. I don't think the Giants should be getting 2.5 at home. I like the Giants a lot in this game as well. I just think they're too well coached with Brian Dable, Wink Martindale, Mike Kafka, all 3 levels. I think they're head coach and the 2 coordinators. I think they're too well coached to lose 3 in a row. And this is their season right here. They're getting a little bit healthier. They could be getting some players back. And listen, I like the Commanders. I mean, they've had a nice little run here. They won 6 of 7. But similar to the Vikings, they're better. The Vikings beat them. That was a close game against the Vikings. They could win either way. They won 6 of 7, and that was their one loss. But tons of close games. They needed a last-second drive against the Sam Ehlinger Colts to win that game 17-16. Last week, they could have lost to the Falcons. End zone interception to survive. They're not a dominant team, so I don't think they're going to go into the Giants, go into MetLife and just dominate this game. I think it's going to be a throwback NFC East kind of game, 1st to 20 kind of wins. I like the Giants to win this game 19-17. I think they're too well coached, and even though Washington's good against the run, so it'll be tough for Barkley to get going. I just feel that. I mean, this is the Giants' season. They 7-2. They lost 2 in a row. They need to win this game because then they play Philly, Washington, and Minnesota next week. Like, this is almost a must-win, and it's similar to a must-win for Washington too. But I just can't see them losing 3 in a row. And at home, I think the line is wrong. I think the Giants are going to win this game 19-17.
We are almost on the identical page. I like the Giants as well here. And something else to add, Daniel Jones usually plays his best games against Washington over the course of his career. He's been fantastic against Washington, and even some games where they've lost, that the tight one on, I forget if it was a Sunday or Monday or Thursday night, the night game in Washington a couple of years ago. Where
Thursday night when he dropped the pass in the end zone.
Yep, exactly. So I think that the Giants take this one at home. I was going to say 20-17 as my score, so we are pretty much on the identical page there. These are two pretty good defenses, and I don't think either one of these offenses are good enough to downright, dominate or really get anywhere close to the mid-20s. But as you said, kind of the throwback old school game. They're going to try to run the ball, try to have the time of possession, but I think the Giants are the better team. They're the home team, and I think the Giants get this one done. So on the same page, 2 for 2. As for our game of the week, we have two that we're going to get into. We talked about this slate being so good. The first one we'll talk about is the Chiefs and the Bengals. Chiefs are favored by 2.5. Who do you like?
Yeah, it's a really tough one. I wish it was 3.5 because then it'd be easy to pick the Bengals. I'm still going to take the Bengals here. I don't know. It's Joe Burrow. I mean, last week I picked the Titans to win. I thought they would get it done at home. The Bengals just keep winning these games, and something about them. They're clicking into gear here. Similar to last year. Last year they beat the Titans in the divisional round, and then they play Kansas City. So it's similar to last year, the regular season, the way the schedule is. I think they're going to find a way to win here. I think Jamar Chase is going to play, and I mean Mahomes. It's hard to bet against him. I think he only lost 2 or 3 games in November and December, so he's on some amazing run here. But he's 0-2 against Burrow. And this Burrow, he's just like Joe Cool. He's just, I don't know, something about it. He's always finding ways to win these clutch games. And I think they do it again here. I don't have a ton of analysis on this one because I think they're both, 2 of the best teams in the league. I think it's going to be a shootout, maybe like 30-27, something like that. Late McPherson field goal to win it. I think it's going to be close. But Kansas City, if you can stop Travis Kelce, I feel like, and that's hard to do, it'll make it tough for them to win because he's always the game changer. So again, not a ton of analysis on this one, but I'm just going to go with Burrow at home. And I think Kansas City, as 9-2, they're obviously a great team, Super Bowl contender. I don't think they're like they were a couple years ago. We're like, they're not going. It's impossible for them to lose. And I also feel like the pressure's on them because they lost to the Bengals last year. They blew that game, that big lead at halftime. So I feel like there's extra pressure, and I don't want to get caught up in the whole revenge thing because I usually do that. I think I make too much out of that. I think there's a ton of pressure on Kansas City. This team had our number last year. They beat us twice late in the regular season and then in our own building to go to the Super Bowl. So I feel like it might be too much pressure, and that could work against them. So give me the Bengals in a close one.
See, I'm going right for that revenge factor. I'm going to take the Chiefs minus 2.5. I think the Bengals embarrassed them last year. With that comeback win. It was a great comeback, but it was also a little bit of a Kansas City meltdown. You had that bizarre play down by the goal line for the Chiefs. They got a little too aggressive and got a little bit too cute. And I think this year after they traded Tyreek Hill, for the most part, people thought, this isn't going to be the same Kansas City team. And they started 4-2. They were kind of just okay at the start, but they've hit their stride. They've won 5 in a row. And it's not like they've necessarily dominated some teams. Like there was the Tennessee game that needed overtime. And they haven't necessarily, like I said, dominated, but for me, I think Kansas City is the better team on paper against Cincinnati. And I just think the revenge factor is in play here. They have 3 games on the road coming up here, so it's important to get one. Obviously, Denver and Houston, who are after Cincinnati, aren't on the same caliber, so that shouldn't really matter a whole lot. But I mean, you mentioned it, in November and December, for whatever reason, that's when this team usually tends to come alive, and I think this year is the exact same. So I'm going to take Kansas City. I'll say like 30-24, something like that.
Okay.
As for the second one, we got to talk about the 49ers and the Dolphins. The 49ers are favored by 3.5. I don't know. What are you going to do here? You're Mr. Dolphin and Mr. 49er usually, so this must be tough on you.
Well, no, actually, I don't think it's that tough. They're getting 3.5, so I feel like it's an easy pick for the Dolphins here. I actually have the Dolphins winning the game outright. I love this matchup. I think, Mike McDaniel last year, 49ers offensive coordinator, going back to face his old team, Jeff Wilson, who the Niners just traded to the Dolphins. And now the Niners are hurting at running back. They probably wish they had him back. there's so many different angles here. But I love the Dolphins this year. They were my pick to win the Super Bowl, and it's not looking as funny as it was back then, right? So I think something about this team, the offense, is just McDaniel, and he's getting the most out of Tua Tagovailoa. He's playing amazing. Dolphins are 8-0 in games that he starts and finishes. They won 5 in a row. And the Niners, I picked them a lot. They have great defense, probably the most talented roster in the entire NFL. But I just don't know if they're going to be able to stop this Dolphins offense. The Niners, as great as their defense is, they haven't played. The only other top offense they played was Kansas City a few weeks ago when they gave up 44 points. So I just see McDaniel feeding off this whole back in the, I'm back and look at this offense I have. And there's no bad blood between him and Shanahan. That's not what I'm saying. But I just feel like this is the Dolphins' high-scoring win. 34-27, something like that. I like the Dolphins a lot in this game. I don't think they're going to be able to slow Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and even the Dolphins running game with 2 49ers former running backs. So, I'm not sure if Mozart is playing. I don't know if he's hurt. But the Dolphins offense to me is just probably the best in the entire league, next to Kansas City. And we saw that San Francisco had trouble stopping them. So I think this is going to be a fun game. It's funny, they're both playing at 4 o'clock, the 2 games of the week. So it's going to be fun watching them back and forth on Red Zone. So I like the Dolphins to keep it going here, 34-27.
All right, I'm going to go with the 49ers, but I think this is going to be a great back and forth, kind of high-scoring game. The 49ers have really surprised me. They've come on strong. Obviously, early in the year, they were struggling a little bit. They lose their quarterback, but Jimmy G he wins games for this team week in and week out. They've been beating opponents by double digits over this 4-game stretch. Obviously, the offense had a little bit of a letdown last week against New Orleans, only scoring 13 points. But Miami's defense really leaves a lot to be desired, and for me, I think that's the difference maker. I think even with the 49ers having some issues at the running back position, getting a little bit banged up, I think they'll be able to score and keep pace in this game. And, I really think, Miami, they haven't necessarily faced a tough defense in a few weeks now. And obviously they're a great team. So if they go on and win this game, I wouldn't be shocked. I'd feel a little bit more comfortable with this one at 3 or 2.5, but I'm still going to ride with the 49ers here. I'm going to take them in a 33-27 win. But these 2 games, Chiefs, Bengals, 49ers, Dolphins, that's must watch Red Zone if you ask me.
Yeah, 2 great games.
Let's get to best bet. What's one that really jumps out to you?
All right, well, I like the Jets and Giants a lot, and the Dolphins too. But I'm going with the team here that I think is going to win outright as an underdog. The Tennessee Titans at the Eagles, getting 5.5. I think the line is
4.5.
No, it's 4.5. Okay,
yep.
So people agree with me. Okay, so Titans, they have the blueprint to beat this team the same way Washington did on Monday night. Run the ball to keep Jalen Hurts and the offense on the sideline. In that game, Washington had the ball for over 40 minutes, ran it 49 times. The Eagles struggled against the run, and now you got to stop Derrick Henry off a loss. And I think it was his worst rushing game. I don't know if it was for his career, but one of his worst rushing games, only 39 yards. So I think Tennessee's going to come out here. Mike Vrabel, we've talked about this before. He thrives in these underdog situations. I may be off a game here, but pretty sure he's 20-11 against the spread, and 20-9 straight up or something like that when underdog by more than 3 points, and also 13-3 against the spread. No, if it's 3 or more, but more than 3, it's 13-3 against the spread. I may mess that up there, but you get the point. he thrives as underdog. He has his team ready. Titans, to me, they're not a flashy team, but they get the job done. And they lost last week to the Bengals, but that tells me more about the Bengals are stepping up and playing better. I just think this is a great matchup. The Eagles can't stop the run, and the way to beat them is to keep Jalen Hurts and that offense on the sideline. I also think there's an advantage for Tennessee knowing A.J. Brown in the rematch. I think that bodes well for them. So the Eagles, I picked them to win the NFC, but they've been haven't been super dominant the last few weeks. They gave 33 points to the Packers, almost lost in Indianapolis, needed a late drive to win. So I don't think they're a dominant team. There's no really dominant team in the NFL this year. So I think even if the Titans lose, 4.5 is too many points. I think it'll be a 3-point game. So I like the Titans to win outright, 27-24, something like that.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Titans as my underdog pick, actually. So I'll just add a couple things here and then get to my best bet. The Eagles, as you said, they let up 33 to the Packers, and that ended up being a 1-score game in a game that really had no business being a one-score game. And then they lost to the Commanders and barely squeaked by the Colts. So I think they've been struggling a little bit. And as you mentioned, Derrick Henry should be able to run really well in this game. I think it'll be a lower scoring game because, as you said, they're going to try to win the time of possession game, really hog the football. So like 23-20, 20-17, something like that. And I think they get it done on the road. I'm picking Tennessee outright as well. I think they get the win on the road in a really impressive upset. So I'm going to do that. But then quickly on my best bet here, I'm going to go with the Seahawks -7.5 over the Rams. I know the Seahawks lost last week, but I think this is a good bounce back spot against a team that is just so incredibly banged up. And so, I mean, they just look like a different version of themselves than what we saw last year, the Super Bowl champion Rams. They are just... The offensive line is so injured. They play a different unit every single week. They're on like their third quarterback now. It's tough out there for the Rams. I think the Seahawks dominate. I'll say something like 34-20, something like that. I think it's a rout here.
Yeah, I agree with that Seahawks pick. And now I'm going to go for my underdog pick, the team that beat Seattle last week, the Raiders, a team that I basically wrote off after Derek Carr was basically in tears after that loss a couple weeks ago. But they back-to-back overtime wins against the Broncos and the Seahawks. I mean, last week's win was super impressive. And I think they got something going here. If they win this week, they have the two LA teams in the next 2 days. They play the LA Chargers on Sunday, and they get 1.5, right? And then Thursday, they play the Rams. So if they can win these two games, all of a sudden they're 6-7 and in the AFC wildcard out of nowhere. So I think the Raiders have played better than their record all year. They should have beaten the Chiefs on Monday night. They had that ridiculous loss to Arizona, I think, in week 2 when they caught that game up. So they're a better team than their record indicates. And I don't know, the Chargers, they're such underachievers to me. They always play close games. I feel like this might be another overtime game. Last year they had that amazing season finale, 35-32 overtime game where the Raiders won, got into the playoffs, got the Chargers out. I think this is another close down-to-the-wire game. That's all the Chargers play. And I think the Raiders find a way to win this one too. The way they're playing, I think, I'm a big believer in that mojo and carrying over late in the season. I think they got something going here. If they can beat the Chargers, get to 5-7, then they beat the Rams, and all of a sudden they have a shot at the 7th seed. Probably not going to happen, but it's not that far fetched. So Raiders to win the game outright plus 1.5.
I love it. There you go. For my bonus pick, I'm going to go with the Lions -1 against Jacksonville. Lions have played really good football recently. They've won 3 of their last 4, and the one loss they had last week on Thanksgiving to Buffalo was an epic game. They lost 28-25 and probably should have won the game. They were playing really good.
Told you to take them. Told you.
You were right. You were right. So you asked me, when am I going to start believing in the Lions? How about this week? Week 13. I'm taking them against Jacksonville. Look, Jacksonville had a great comeback win against Baltimore, but I don't know. I just really like how this Lions team is playing. It's only 1 point, and at home, they just put up points. They score a ton of points. I think they get over 30, and I don't know if Jacksonville's going to be able to do that. I'll say 34-27 Lions in this one.
I like the Lions this week, too. Everyone seems to be taking the Jaguars. They haven't won on the road since week 3, and I think the Lions are a little bit better, so I like them getting points at home. Or not they're giving a point, but same thing. Okay. Yeah. And for my bonus pick, I'm gonna go with the Steelers. I think they're giving 1.5 at Atlanta.
Let me get back on that. They are actually now favored by 1.5.
Yeah, giving it. That's what I said. Yeah, I just feel like another team similar to the Raiders, better than their record. They're better than 4-7, and they just beat the Colts on Monday night. And the defense has a ton of playmakers, and Kenny Pickett. He's not having an amazing year, but he's playing solid enough where they can build offense for next year. And Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season, so I feel like maybe that's motivation possibly to get him closer to 500 here. I think the Steelers better than the record indicates, and I like this matchup. They're 6th against the run. Falcons are number 4 in the league against the rushing, but if you can stop their run game, they don't have much in the passing game, and they're down. They lost Kyle Pitts for the year, and the Falcons team, they're weird. They play better than we thought they'd play, but they're still 5-7, and I don't trust them. I think Steelers find a way to win this one on the road, maybe like a 23-17 kind of game. So it's basically a pick 'em. So I like the Steelers.
Yeah, I like the Steelers too this week. I think it's a good matchup for them. I'm with you. I don't really trust Atlanta in this game, but we'll recap real quick going through. We are both on the Jets +3 against the Vikings. Giants and Commanders, both on the Giants plus 2.5. Our first game of the week is the Chiefs and the Bengals. I like the Chiefs. Joe is on the Bengals. 49ers, Dolphins. I'm taking 49ers minus 3.5. Joe is taking the Dolphins plus 3.5. My best bet, I'm taking the Seahawks minus 7.5 over the Rams. Joe is going with the Titans plus 4.5 and getting the outright win against the Philadelphia Eagles. I like the Titans as my underdog, so I'm with him there. Raiders plus 1.5 is Joe's underdog. And then our bonus pick, Lions minus 1 for me. Joe is going Steelers minus 1.5 for his.
Almost 7 underdogs there for me. 6 underdogs and a 1.5 spread.
There you go. Love it. Things you love to see. Joe, thank you for joining me as always, and good luck this week.
All right, Matt. Great job. Thanks.